I'm Amelia Mosley and you're watching BTN's first episode for 2024. Hope you have the best holidays. Let's jump into it and see what's coming up. We find out more about Queensland's wild weather. A young journalist gives us a lesson in US politics. And Kushi learns what to do if you're caught in a rip. We'll have all that and more soon, but first today to a story about tax. It's been big in the news since the PM announced he was making some changes to some planned tax changes. So, what's going on? And what is tax anyway? Jack is here to explain.
Hear ye, hear ye, the king is here. Ye.
Pitiful peasants, 'tis I, your king.
Oh, I didn't know we had a king.
I'm here to make a few changes around here to help spruce things up a little.
Oh yeah, like what?
Roads! I'm going to be building roads.
Roads.
And to help pay for these roads, I'm going to require everybody to pay $3 of their weekly income. Oh. I'm calling it tax. I'll be back tomorrow for collection.
What is this tax? Well, tax is... Oh. Who said that? Are you also a king?
No, I'm a reporter.
Oh. I will go on then.
Thank you. Like this peasant just found out, taxes are a way the government, or king, can collect money from its citizens, businesses and other entities to pay for things people need, like roads, healthcare, education, defence, the list goes on. Here in Australia, there are a few types of taxes, but the one that brings in the most money is income tax.
Hello, pitiful peasants, 'tis I, your king.
Yes, we get it.
I'm here to collect the tax we spoke of yesterday.
Oh yeah, about that. Old mate over there just got a fancy schmancy new job with a pay rise and a company cart. So, why should I have to pay the same as him when he earns way more than I do?
You do have a point there. Well, to make things fairer, those who earn more will pay more, and those who earn less will pay less. I'll call it income tax.
Income tax.
Yes, income tax.
Who said that? Is that another king?
Oh, no. That's a reporter.
Oh.
Like this village, the amount of income tax you pay is determined by how much money you make. The more money you earn, the higher percentage of income tax you'll end up paying. It's designed to make sure people are only paying what they can afford, but it's a delicate balance to get it right. You see, if you tax people too much, they don't have as much money to spend, and that can affect the economy.
I need 6 eggs. That's too expensive.
But if you tax too little, the government doesn't have as much to spend on things like, well, roads.
Oh yeah. Where are those roads? And what are roads again?
Guys, how are you?
Back in 2018, the government announced a 3-stage plan to change the income tax system. The first and second stages lowered taxes for people who earn the lowest and middle incomes. And the third stage would have seen tax cuts for people with higher incomes, to make sure that if people's pay went up, they weren't losing too much of it to tax. But things have changed.
When economic circumstances change, the right thing to do is to change economic policy.
As you might have heard, there is a cost of living crisis going on, and a lot of people are struggling. So the Prime Minister has announced that he's changing the tax changes, so that people on lower and middle incomes will get an extra tax cut, while the higher income earners won't get so much back.
It's better for women and workforce participation, it's better for nurses and truckies and teachers, and it's better for the economy.
It's been pretty controversial, mostly because the Prime Minister said before the election he wasn't going to touch the tax changes.
Well, I think it's just a major break of trust. It's a betrayal, and the Prime Minister promised this on over 100 occasions.
We will fight this legislation through both the House of Representatives and the Senate. We're not prepared to give up on this.
The changes still have to go through the Senate, and the opposition haven't said if they'll support it. So, sorry everyone, there's probably going to be a lot more tax talk to come.
Oh, Your Majesty. Look, I've been thinking about this whole tax thing, and I think we could make it even fairer. I've come up with a 3-stage plan.
Got to go. Very busy in all that kingly duties.
Oh, well, no, I've put it in a Word document.
Can you name this famous painting? It's the Mona Lisa, and it was in the news last week when protesters threw soup at it. They say they were trying to raise awareness about food security, but of course security at the Louvre in Paris weren't too impressed. Da Vinci's famous painting wasn't damaged thanks to a protective glass shield. She even looks a bit amused. Japan's first moon lander is up and roaming the lunar surface. It landed on January 20th but had to take a nap for a week until its solar panels managed to catch enough rays to power up. How many countries have now landed rovers on the moon? Is it 3, 5 or 7? It's 5. The US, Russia, India, China and now Japan. And the world got its first Australian-born queen over the holidays when King Frederick and his wife Queen Mary took over the throne of which country? The Netherlands, Denmark or Greece? It's Denmark. Mary is originally from Tasmania but married the Crown Prince of Denmark back in 2004 and became the Queen Consort when Frederick's mother abdicated earlier this month. Now to the weather, which for people in parts of Queensland has been wild, windy and very, very wet. They've had weeks of devastating floods and storms. And Justina caught up with some kids to find out what it's been like. Take a look.
Yeah, for lots of kids in Queensland, the holidays were full of wild weather.
It was very windy and there was non-stop rain.
All the grass had turned from grass to mud.
You see, the state's southeast has been hit with a lot of rain. Last week, some areas got up to 300 millimetres in just a few hours, which is about a third of what Brisbane usually gets in a whole year.
That's really, really heavy rainfall. That's enough to cause both flash flooding but also contribute to riverine flooding.
The rapid rise of water levels caught a lot of people off guard, giving emergency services and the public not a lot of time to prepare.
It was really scary. My neighbours had to evacuate and screaming.
The rain came on the heels of ex-tropical cyclone Kirrily, which hit the coast a few weeks ago, bringing gusts of up to 170 kilometres per hour, tearing roofs off buildings, ripping up trees and power lines, and decimating crops.
Everything was all over the place. Things were flying away, tumbling over. It was crazy.
We had to take shelter because it was really windy.
We had quite a lot of flooding. I remember when we were driving into town, the road was closed because there was so much water, so we had to find different ways to go.
Kirrily struck barely a month after Tropical Cyclone Jasper, which made its windy way across Queensland and the NT, bringing record rainfall, damaging winds and isolating floods. Not to mention some unwanted guests, just in time for the holiday season.
And then we saw someone's Christmas decoration floating above. They were really, really high in the sky.
During and after Cyclone Jasper, the river down there was 4.2 metres under, which is our only way to get resources.
The water came up to that sign.
Of course, if you live up here, you'll know this weather isn't anything new.
Welcome to the wet season.
Yep, in the tropics, the familiar seasons of summer, autumn, winter and spring don't apply. Instead, it's all about the wet and the dry. That's because our tropical regions are close to the equator, which means they're closer to the sun. That heat creates a kind of natural sauna, bringing hot and humid weather, along with rain, thunderstorms, floods and tropical cyclones. While this sort of thing is nothing new, some are worried that climate change is making these events more intense and frequent. So, is more wet weather on the way? Well, quite possibly.
Well, it is a little bit early to say for sure, so there is a bit of an elevated risk that we will see La Nina conditions developing across Australia this year.
That's a weather pattern that brings more cool, wet weather to the east. Meanwhile, many people are still waiting for floodwaters to go down.
If you're stranded, you should call for help, that you should not go in it because you don't know how deep it is.
And for others, there'll be a long clean-up ahead.
It's been a lot of cleanup. The community's really coming together, helping everybody.
It really puts it into perspective how one thing can really change so much.
Thanks for watching BTN.
The wind system that brings rain to the tropics every year is known as a what? It's a monsoon.
We're waiting for a cyclone at Gordon Bell State School, and you're watching BTN. Woo!
As you might know, the US is having an election this year, which means we're probably going to be hearing a fair bit about American politics. And one person who knows a lot about that is Quinn Mitchell. At 15, he's got his own podcast and website and spends his time asking big questions of powerful people. Justina caught up with him to find out about his passion for politics.
15-year-old Quinn Mitchell,
who's been asking tough questions.
A lot of people are excited about meeting, their favorite YouTuber or their favorite social media star, whatever, I liked meeting politicians.
How old are you?
11.
Do you believe that Trump violated the peaceful transfer of power?
Are you in high school?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm a 15-year-old political enthusiast from New Hampshire. It's one of the 50 states in the United States. I got involved in politics and history when I was 5 years old. From a young age, I was able to have conversations with adults in my life about political issues that really enlightened me on what was happening in our world. I slowly progressed. I slowly just built up my questions, and that's how I got where I am today.
Can you explain how politics works in the US?
Big question. All right. So obviously there's the US government at a federal level, specifically the three branches. There's the Constitution, which is basically the framework of our country. We have the fundamentals, the right to a free press, which is enshrined in our Constitution, which I love. I love that part specifically for myself. The two big parties in the United States are the Republicans and the Democrats. A lot of people just fall into those two because those are the only two we have. It's not mandatory to vote in the United States. I think a third of our citizens don't vote, so it's something around that. The US political system is very hard to explain in a couple of minutes. What I will tell you is that you get the opportunity to question politicians, especially in New Hampshire, because we have the right to, and they're gonna represent us if they get elected.
And what's happening in US politics at the moment?
Our former president, Donald Trump, is under 4 indictments. We are currently going through the presidential primary, where the two political parties elect a nominee. Then there will be 2 nominees who will go into the general election, which is in November of 2024. So we're kind of all gearing up for that right now. A lot of it is around Donald Trump, I have to say.
So what do you like about journalism?
I like the idea of holding the people we elect to serve accountable on their actions or whatever promises they made. What I found is, hard questions matter. And without journalism, I feel, citizens become easily more prone to, disinformation or being ignorant about, certain political issues.
And how do you look for news?
Yeah, I have several morning newsletters sent to me to look at a lot of perspectives across the political spectrum. Because if you're only looking at one, you're getting probably extreme bias. I listen to a lot of conservative and liberal commentary. One of my favorite things to listen to is, debates. It's the most entertaining things, in my opinion, to watch.
What are some of your most memorable moments?
I got a challenge coin from that. I don't know if you know what it is. It's usually for military, and it's basically like if you have the challenge coin when you meet somebody, they have to buy you a drink, but if you don't have it, the person has to buy them a drink. So Biden gave me one of those in June of 2019. He said, okay, I guess I owe you a drink. And he stepped away from all the press, and then, we went over to grab a drink together. And then another time was random campaign rally. And then he just pulled a Coca-Cola out of his pocket. I'm not kidding. It was in his pocket. I thought about this for 4 years. This is an extreme mystery for me. For 4 years, I pondered, what could have happened? The conclusion is, I think, is the campaign staffers, they saw me, they knew I had a challenge coin, they slipped by in a Coca-Cola because, nobody really has a Coca-Cola in their pocket.
No. That's the most hilarious story. I love that so much. So why do you think it's important for young kids to be involved in politics?
We live in such a consequential and momentous time period where the politicians we elect to serve and the decisions they make are going to impact us drastically, whether it's in 30 or 50 years. So if there's a time to be involved, it's definitely right now. Be involved in what you believe in and try to make a change, because you'll find your voice matters more than you think it is.
Which of these animals is used to represent the US Democratic Party? Democrats are donkeys, Republicans are elephants.
Hi BTN! We're watching from Broome Primary School!
Now let's head to the beach. It's where a lot of us like to spend our holidays, but it can also be dangerous. And lifesavers say we need to do more to protect ourselves. So Kushi went to get some tips for staying safe in the water.
Yep, over the holidays you've probably spent some time here, building sandcastles, playing with your friends, eating ice cream, and most importantly, swimming. But while cooling off in the water is a lot of fun, it can also be a pretty dangerous place. Last year there were 6,000 rescues made along the Australian coastline and 281 people died, which is why surf lifesavers are on a mission to keep people safe. They're the people you've probably seen wearing red and yellow and, well, saving lives. And they say one of the most important things you can do at the beach is to make sure they can see you.
Biggest tip is to swim between the flags, because that's where we've got extra sets of eyes keeping you safe, and make sure you're swimming with someone else.
Sean says while any sort of water can be dangerous, the ocean has its own hazards.
But the biggest thing we're really worried about is rips.
Rips are very strong and narrow currents that run perpendicular to the beach and quickly pull swimmers away from the shore and out to sea.
Because if you find yourself in a rip, what's actually happening is the wave energy is trying to get away from the shoreline, and it takes the quickest path out, and often our swimmers get trapped in them.
Here, lifesavers have used coloured dye to show a rip in action, but without it, they can be really hard to spot, even for experts.
The biggest indication is often that the waves get knocked flat by the returning energy, and often you'll see a streak of sand being carried out through the back.
Other things to look out for include deep, dark patches of water, fewer breaking waves, or foamy, discoloured water beyond the waves. So, what do you do if you get caught in a rip? The most important thing to remember is to stay calm. Sean says that you should never try and swim against a rip. Even Olympic swimmers aren't fast enough for that. You'll probably just wear yourself out.
And that's why people get in trouble. They think they should just try and take the shortest path back to the beach and try and swim back the way they've come.
Instead, flip onto your back and float with the rip. Next, signal out to shore.
Put your hand up to wave for assistance, and you'll often find one of our lifesavers, if you're at a patrol beach, will come out and help, or maybe someone standing by will actually help you get back in.
If you are a strong swimmer, you can try swimming parallel to the shore to escape the current's pull. In other words, just swim left or right. Just remember that if you do see someone else stuck in a rip, it's super important that you don't jump in to save them.
So in Australia we've got a problem with bystander rescues, which is when people are trying to help other people, ending up getting in trouble themselves.
Instead, try and alert a lifeguard nearby. If there aren't any on site, throw in something that floats for them to grab onto, like a surfboard. So we've covered rips. What else should we be looking for in the water?
First of all, it's about understand your own capabilities. The surf at the moment today is nice and flat, nice and calm, so it's good for everyone to go in. But even then, you don't know what happens with the sand as you move further out.
Sean says waves can be really dangerous, whether you're in the water or next to it. And you should also be aware of what other people are doing around you. But one of the best things we can all do to stay safe is to learn to swim.
There's so many learn to swim programs around the country. Surf offers some of them. Make sure you can swim so you can enjoy the beach.
Australia has won its one-day international series against the West Indies.
The world champions continue their dominance.
The Aussies looked like they were in trouble when the West Indies had them at 4 for 89 by the 16th over. But Sean Abbott got things back on track with the best score of his international career, making 69 runs off 63 balls.
That's big. It's very big.
Helping the Aussies to an 83-run win. Aussie mogul superstar Jakara Anthony is now Australia's most successful mogul skier ever, after claiming another World Cup gold medal. She just took out the dual moguls crown on the champion run, which was her 11th win of the season and her 18th overall.
Australia, make some noise, Jakara Anthony!
And over to the World Aquatics Championships in Doha, where a 13-year-old called Huang Jianja and his teammate Zhong Jiachi have won gold for China in synchronized diving.
Once again, what a great performance for them so far.
They claim the top spot for the mixed 10-metre dive category. And yeah, they look pretty synced up to me.
Finally today, we're going to introduce you to one of the winners of the Takeover Melbourne competition, which asks young people to write stories about things that are important to them. Katiana is going to tell us how her school life changed thanks to a famous Aussie musical. Take a look.
I didn't have the best childhood. I was dealing with trauma and anger. I was struggling to cope and thought my story would end there and then. But Mum had other plans. She sent me to Warrawa Aboriginal College, a boarding school for girls, east of Melbourne. I felt isolated and alone, and I thought the other girls would pick on me because of my light skin. One day, a teacher announced there was going to be auditions held for a musical production of the Sapphires. The Sapphires is based on a true story about 4 deadly Aboriginal women who form a music group in the 60s. First, it was a play, then it was turned into a film, and get this. One of the real-life Sapphires, Arnie Lois, was the school principal of Warrawa. A week after I auditioned, they announced the roles.
So, playing the part of Auntie Lois's character, Kay, can I have a big drum roll, please? Is Katiana! Woo!
Oh my gosh. I was so excited because singing, acting and dancing are huge passions of mine. Our performance of the Sapphires was to be filmed and screened.
What? That was great.
Rehearsals were so much fun. I started making friends with the cast and crew. That's when I noticed a change. I realised I was happy. The night of the screening was very emotional. I remember crying when Arnie Lois told us how proud she was. That year, I ended up winning 3 school awards for my talent and effort. I now know what makes me truly happy and at peace, and that is expressing myself through cultural dance and performing on stage. I am a proud Wadawurrung woman.
Oh, awesome work, Katiana. Well, that's it for week 1 of BTN. I'll be here next week, same time, same place, different stories. Until then, you can jump on our website or keep up to date with Newsbreak and BTN High. I'll catch you soon. Bye.